My name is Samantha Mitchell, 28, and for years my family has treated my career as something to whisper about. She's just a security guard, my dad told wedding guests last weekend, his dismissive tone cutting deeper than he knew. Little did he realize that in less than 24 hours, those same guests would be watching me on national news after I stopped what could have been a catastrophic incident at the Westlake Grand Hotel. If you're wondering how everything changed in a single night, stick around. Before I dive into my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments below. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. Growing up, my dad, Thomas Mitchell, and I were inseparable. He was my hero, a successful business executive who seemed to know everything about the world. We spent weekends fishing at Lake Champlain, where he'd tell me stories about his rise from a small-town kid to corporate success. "You're going to follow in my footsteps, Sammy," he'd say, his eyes twinkling with pride. I believed him. I wanted to be just like him. Everything changed when I turned 17. My junior year career fair had a booth from a private security firm. While my friends clustered around fashion design and business management, I was transfixed by the security professionals discussing risk assessment and protection strategies. Something clicked. This was what I wanted to do. Dad didn't take it well. Security? Like a mall cop, he laughed, certain it was just a phase. Became his mantra during my senior year. Mom, always the mediator, would try to smooth things over. "Thomas, she's just exploring options," she'd say, but her voice lacked conviction. Deep down, I knew she shared his disappointment. After high school, I enrolled in a criminal justice program rather than the prestigious business school Dad had his heart set on. Our relationship cooled considerably. Holiday dinners became exercises in avoided topics. While my younger brother Ryan followed the approved path, business school, internships at Dad's firm. Eventual executive position, I pursued specialized security training and certification programs. 6 years ago, I landed a position at the Westlake Grand Hotel, one of the most prestigious hotels in the city. The Westlake isn't just any hotel, it's where diplomats stay, where celebrities retreat, where million-dollar business deals are signed over breakfast. And personally handled security for 3 presidential candidates during their stays. My performance reviews consistently rank me in the top tier of security personnel. Last year, I single-handedly identified and neutralized a potential data breach that could have compromised the personal information of thousands of high-profile guests. None of this impressed my family. "When are you going to get a real career?" Dad would ask during our increasingly rare phone calls. My colleague Jordan Wilson is the only one who really understands. Jordan joined the security team 2 years after me, and we immediately connected over our shared backgrounds. Both of us chose security despite family expectations of more prestigious careers. The charity gala was set to be the biggest event of the year, celebrities, politicians, and billionaire philanthropists all gathering under one roof to raise money for children's cancer research. The security preparations had been underway for months, with every detail scrutinized repeatedly. But before the gala came my cousin Caitlin's wedding. Caitlin and I had been close as children, but as adults, we existed in different worlds. Her world was filled with designer clothes and European vacations. Mine was filled with security rotations and tactical training. Still, hoping it might buffer the inevitable awkwardness with my parents, Mom greeted me with her standard once-over, the kind that started at my sensible shoes and ended at my practical haircut. "She's just a security guard at that hotel downtown." The way he said it, like an apology, a disclaimer, made me simultaneously invisible and exposed. The men nodded politely and quickly changed the subject to Ryan's recent promotion. I slipped away, determined not to let them see how much it hurt. As I moved through the reception, I overheard variations of the same introduction again and again. "Oh, that's Samantha. She's just a security guard." By midnight, they would understand that what I do matters. I just never expected that someday would arrive so soon. The Mitchell family table at Caitlin's wedding reception was perfectly positioned, not too close to the band, not too far from the dance floor. and offering an excellent view of the entire ballroom. Perfect for everyone except me. From my seat, I could see all the subtle exchanges and whispered comments as relatives spotted me. "Is that Samantha? What is she wearing?" "Thomas's daughter. Such a shame she never went to college. I heard she's some kind of security person. Checks bags at a hotel or something." I pretended not to notice, focusing instead on arranging my silverware with military precision. Years of security work had trained me to maintain a calm exterior regardless of internal turbulence. Still, each whisper chipped away at my composure. Aunt Vivian, my father's sister and family gossip central, made her way to our table with the subtlety of a peacock. "Samantha, it's been ages. Your brother tells me he's just been promoted again. So impressive. And you're still at that hotel? Checking people's bags." "I'm part of the executive security team," I corrected gently. "We handle threat assessment, VIP protection, and facility security measures." Aunt Vivian's eyes glazed over before I finished. "Well, that sounds interesting." I straightened instinctively, hoping for a chance to make a better impression than last time. "Gentlemen, you remember my daughter," Dad said. His hand barely gesturing in my direction before continuing, "Ryan couldn't make it to cocktail hour because he was closing the Anderson deal. 8 figures. The boy's a natural." "Mr. Peterson nodded politely in my direction. "And what do you do again, my dear?" Before I could answer, Dad interjected. "Samantha works in customer service." "Now, about that merger opportunity." "Customer service." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. 6 years of specialized training, tactical certifications, and proven expertise reduced to customer service. Mom appeared beside me, perfect in her mother of the cousin of the bride dress. "Samantha, don't slouch," she whispered, before turning a brilliant smile to the business associates. "Have you gentlemen tried the crab cakes? They're divine." As the evening progressed, I retreated further into observation mode, a skill that served me well professionally, but felt painfully isolating in this personal setting. I watched Ryan work the room, everyone gravitating toward his charismatic presence and impressive business stories. He caught my eye once, giving me a small wave that seemed half acknowledgement, half pity. Then Grandma Grace found me by the dessert table, her aged hand taking mine with surprising strength. "Don't let them fool you," she said quietly. "Your grandfather was a firefighter. Saved dozens of lives. Never made much money, never had a fancy title. But he mattered." She squeezed my hand. "You matter too, Samantha." Her words were the only genuine ones I'd heard all night. The drive home to my apartment was long and quiet. I turned off the radio, preferring the silence to the cheerful banter of late-night DJs. My apartment welcomed me with its comfortable familiarity, not fancy by my family's standards, but filled with things that mattered to me. Bookshelves lined with security manuals and psychology texts. Framed certificates documenting my specialized training. A wall calendar marked with my security rotation and training sessions. I kicked off my uncomfortable wedding shoes and checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Jordan. Unusual for a Saturday night. I called back immediately. "Sam, Frank wants all hands on deck tomorrow for a complete protocol revision. Can you make it?" "I'll be there at 8, I promised, already mentally cataloging the adjustments we'd need to make. As I hung up, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror, still in my wedding outfit, the dress I'd spent too much on to impress people who barely looked at me. I changed quickly into sweatpants and a t-shirt, then pulled out my laptop. If we were revising protocols tomorrow, I wanted to be prepared. Work had always been my refuge. While my family dismissed my career at the Westlake Grand, my skills were valued, my opinion sought after. I threw myself into preparation, researching the added VIPs, reviewing their security requirements, and sketching potential adjustments to our existing plans. As midnight approached, my phone chimed with a text from Ryan. "Sorry about Dad today." The annual charity gala wasn't just any function, it was the social event of the season, drawing celebrities, business tycoons, and political figures from across the country. This year's theme. The security team gathered in our command center at precisely 8 o'clock. Chief of Security Frank Davidson, a former military intelligence officer with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, stood before the digital floor plan projected on the wall. At 58, Frank had seen everything from presidential visits to bomb threats, and nothing ruffled him except last-minute changes to the guest list. "Listen up, people," he began, his gravelly voice cutting through the murmurs. "Governor Bailey Roberts has confirmed attendance, along with the Japanese Ambassador Tanaka and British Consul General Phillips. This elevates our security profile significantly. And coordination with the governor's security detail. We need to adjust our perimeter security and revise all entry points," Frank continued. "Any suggestions?" Several voices spoke at once. "The kitchen delivery entrance needs additional personnel. It's too close to the new VIP seating area, and deliveries are scheduled throughout the evening." Frank looked at the blueprint. The revised seating puts Ambassador Tanaka's back to that entrance. It's a vulnerability. Frank stared at me for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Mitchell's right. We'll reassign Team 3 to cover that entrance." He continued detailing other adjustments, but I caught the appreciative glance he sent my way. In this room, unlike at the wedding, my expertise was recognized. As the meeting concluded, team assignments were distributed. Jordan would lead the team securing the main entrance. As we filed out, Mason Harris, the hotel's hospitality director, was waiting in the hallway. With his perfectly tailored suit and perpetual condescending smile, Mason embodied everything I disliked about corporate politics. "The security team," he said, as if discovering a curious species. "I trust you won't be too visible during tonight's event? Our guests prefer to feel welcomed, not watched." Frank's jaw tightened. "My team will be exactly as visible as necessary to ensure everyone's safety, Mason." Mason waved a dismissive hand. "Just keep the earpieces and tactical gear to a minimum. This isn't a police state." His eyes landed on me. "And Mitchell, try to smile more. You're scaring the guests with that serious face." I maintained my professional composure as he walked away, though Jordan muttered something unflattering under his breath. The next few hours were a flurry of activity: briefing staff, conducting security sweeps, testing communication equipment. During a routine check of the service corridors, I noticed a face I didn't recognize. A young man in hotel uniform was examining the electrical panel near the kitchen. "Excuse me," I called, approaching with measured steps. "I need to see your ID badge." He turned, revealing a staff badge that identified him as Lucas Reed, maintenance. "Just checking the circuits for tonight," he explained, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Don't want any power issues during the big event." Something about his demeanor raised tiny flags in my mind. Lucas Reed had indeed been hired the previous week, his references checked out, but something still felt off. I pulled up his background check, finding nothing immediately suspicious: no criminal record, stable employment history. I mentioned my concerns to Frank during our pre-event briefing. "There's a new maintenance guy, Lucas Reed. Something about him seems off." Frank glanced at the file I'd pulled up. "Background check is clean. What's bothering you?" "Just instinct," I admitted. The way he was examining the electrical panels seemed methodical, not like a routine check. Frank considered this. "Keep an eye on him tonight, but without cause, we can't do much more." I nodded, knowing he was right. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something important. As evening approached, I'd identified a jewelry thief targeting guest rooms by recognizing behavioral patterns of a supposed hotel guest. Last year, I'd intercepted a reporter attempting to access a celebrity's room disguised as housekeeping. Each time, it had been subtle details that others missed that had alerted me. At 6 o'clock, with guests due to arrive in 2 hours, I decided to review the security camera footage from the past week. Most of my colleagues were focused on the immediate preparations, but my instincts were pulling me toward a broader perspective. Scanning through footage of the service corridors, I spotted Lucas on 3 separate occasions, each time examining different infrastructure points: electrical panels, network cabinets, the security system junction box. Each inspection looked professional and purposeful, but together they painted a concerning picture. He was mapping the hotel's critical systems. As I was about to report this to Frank, the radio crackled with updates about the governor's advance team arriving. The immediate demands of the evening took precedence, but I downloaded the footage to my secure tablet for later review. That night, as guests began arriving in their finery, I took my position in the command center, 16 screens showing every angle of the hotel. My eyes continually drifted to the service areas, looking for Lucas Reed. Something was going to happen tonight. I could feel it. The morning of the gala dawned with unusual clarity for our typically overcast city. I'd managed only 4 hours of sleep, my mind still churning with concerns about Lucas Reed and the nagging sense that something wasn't right. I arrived at the Westlake Grand at 6 a.m., a full hour before my scheduled shift. The early morning quiet of the grand lobby, marble floors gleaming in the soft light, crystal chandeliers dimmed to a gentle glow, belied the controlled chaos happening behind the scenes. In the staff areas, florists wrestled with enormous arrangements. Caterers wheeled in carts loaded with provisions, and the housekeeping team conducted one final, meticulous cleaning of the ballroom. I headed straight to the security command center, nodding to the night shift supervisor, who looked surprised to see me. "Thought you weren't on until 7, he said, stifling a yawn. "Couldn't sleep," I replied, scanning the bank of monitors. "Anything unusual overnight?" "Quiet as a library. Though that new maintenance guy was checking the HVAC system at around 3 a.m. Said there was a complaint about temperature fluctuations." My spine stiffened. "Which areas?" "Near the ballroom and the southeast service corridor." "Why?" I pulled up the building schematics on my tablet. The southeast service corridor housed one of our main security system hubs. "Was anyone with him?" "Nah, he had proper authorization. Mason Harris signed off on it." "Of course he did. Mason would sign anything if it meant avoiding a guest complaint, even if it meant circumventing security protocols." I spent the next hour reviewing camera footage from the overnight shift. Lucas appeared on several cameras, his movements deliberate and efficient. To the untrained eye, he was simply doing his job, but I noticed how he lingered near certain access points. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Jordan said, setting down 2 coffee cups and sliding one toward me. "Something's not right with that new maintenance guy," I said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "He's been accessing critical systems all over the building, always during quiet periods, always alone." Jordan frowned. "You told Frank?" "He's in a briefing with the governor's security team. I'll catch him after." Our conversation was interrupted by Mason Harris's unwelcome arrival, his cologne announcing him before he even entered the room. The security team hard at work," he said, his tone suggesting the opposite. "I have concerns about Lucas Reed. He's been accessing security-adjacent systems throughout the building at unusual hours." Mason's expression shifted from condescension to annoyance. "Reed is addressing HVAC issues that could impact our VIP guests' comfort. Perhaps if security focused more on actual threats instead of harassing our maintenance staff, we'd all be better off." "It's not harassment to verify." "Enough, Mitchell," he cut me off. "Your job is to watch for gatecrashers and pickpockets, not micromanage hotel operations." "I've approved Reed's work orders personally." After he left, Jordan whistled low. "That guy really has it out for you." "Ever since I reported that his VIP guest was dealing drugs last year," I muttered. "He had to comp 3 luxury suites to smooth it over with the rest of the party." The morning progressed with security briefings, equipment checks, and the arrival of the first vendor trucks. I kept one eye on my regular duties and another on Lucas Reed, who seemed to be everywhere at once, checking electrical outlets in the ballroom, inspecting fire alarms near the VIP entrance, adjusting thermostats in the private dining areas. During a rare quiet moment, I was surprised by a tap on my shoulder. Turning, I found myself face to face with Eleanor Westlake herself, the 82-year-old owner of the hotel and matriarch of the Westlake Empire. "Miss Mitchell," she said, her voice still strong despite her advanced years. "I was hoping to find you here." I straightened immediately. "Mrs. Westlake, is there something I can assist you with?" Her shrewd eyes studied me with unexpected intensity. You were the one who handled that unpleasant business with the ambassador's son last spring, weren't you? I nodded, recalling the incident where I discreetly intercepted a young man attempting to bring underage girls into his father's diplomatic suite. Yes, ma'am. Masterfully done, she said with a sharp nod. Frank tells me you have concerns about tonight's event? Surprised that Frank had elevated my concerns to the owner herself, I hesitated only briefly before explaining my observations about Lucas Reed. Mrs. Westlake listened without interruption, her expression growing more serious with each detail. Trust your instincts. Miss Mitchell, she said when I finished. They've served this hotel well before. I'll speak with Mr. Harris about his flexible approach to security protocols. As she turned to leave, she added, I'll be attending tonight with my grandson. I'd appreciate it if you'd keep a particular eye on him. He's only 25 and has a knack for finding trouble. With Mrs. Westlake's implicit support, I returned to the command center with renewed purpose. A security system check revealed something troubling. 2 of our auxiliary cameras in the service corridors were showing looped footage. It was subtle, the kind of thing that would go unnoticed during a busy event, but it confirmed my suspicions. Someone had tampered with our security systems. I immediately implemented our backup protocols. But he was still tied up with the governor's advance team. As afternoon faded into evening, the first guests began to arrive, local celebrities, business leaders, politicians in their finest attire. The governor's motorcade was scheduled to arrive at 8:30, with the Japanese ambassador and British consul general already in the building. Jordan's voice crackled over my radio. Sam, our new friend just entered the northeast stairwell with some kind of toolbox. Doesn't match any scheduled maintenance. Stay on him, I replied, pulling up the stairwell cameras only to find them offline. Cameras down. I'm sending backup. Before I could dispatch additional security, multiple alerts began flashing across my screens. Motion detectors in restricted areas. Doors opening that should be locked. Power fluctuations in the East Wing. Something was happening. Something coordinated. I spotted Lucas on a lobby camera, speaking into what appeared to be a service radio, except our maintenance staff used a different model entirely. He was communicating with someone outside our system. As I reached for my radio to sound the alarm, the first screams erupted from the ballroom and the main lights went out. The emergency lights kicked in, bathing the security command center in an eerie blue glow. On my monitors, I could see the confusion spreading through the ballroom, guests frozen in uncertainty, server staff looking around for direction. Then I saw them, for individuals in hotel uniform moving with purpose through the crowd, not panicking like the others. Security breach in progress, I announced into my radio, keeping my voice calm and authoritative. Multiple suspects in staff uniforms. This is a coordinated robbery attempt targeting high-value guests. All units implement Protocol Sigma. Repeat, Protocol Sigma. Every member of the security team would know exactly what to do: secure exits, protect VIPs, establish safe zones. I quickly pulled up the building schematics on my tablet, identifying the most likely escape routes the robbers would use. The northeast service corridor led directly to a loading dock where a vehicle could be waiting. The kitchen exit opened to an alley with minimal surveillance. The main power was still out, which meant they had access to the electrical systems. The backup generator would only power emergency lighting and critical systems, not our full camera network or electronic door locks. My radio crackled to life. Mitchell, this is Davidson. Governor's detail has moved him to secure location Bravo. What's your assessment? At least 5 hostiles, I replied, counting Lucas and the 4 I'd spotted in the ballroom. Likely armed. They've compromised our electrical systems and some security cameras. They're using staff uniforms for cover and appear to be targeting guests, not the hotel vault. Understood. Police are 8 minutes out. I need you to coordinate from command. I hesitated, watching the chaos unfold on my screens. With respect, sir, I need to get to the ballroom. I know these people's faces. Our team doesn't. After a brief pause, go. Jordan can take command center. I was already moving, grabbing my tactical flashlight and radio. I knew the service stairs would get me to the ballroom level in under a minute. As I raced through the darkened corridors, I radioed Jordan. I need eyes on Lucas Reed. Last seen near the northeast stairwell. Negative visual on Reed, Jordan replied. But we've got movement in the southeast corridor, near the VIP rooms. That made sense. While most guests were in the ballroom, personal valuables would be in their rooms. The wealthiest guests, like Mrs. Westlake and the foreign diplomats, had suites in the southeast wing. I changed direction, moving silently through the employee corridors. Years of training had prepared me for this, to think clearly in crisis, to move decisively while others froze in panic. As I approached the southeast corridor, I heard voices, a man giving sharp instructions, another responding with frustration. I edged closer, keeping to the shadows. The Tanaka suite is locked down. We need the master key from security. Reed was supposed to handle that. Where the hell is he? Doesn't matter. We stick to the plan. Ballroom team should be gathering the watches and jewelry now. We meet at extraction point in 7 minutes. I pressed myself against the wall as they moved past my position, counting 2 men in maintenance uniforms, both carrying what looked like hotel laundry bags, perfect for concealing stolen goods and weapons. Once they passed, I radioed their position to Jordan, then continued toward the VIP suites. If they couldn't access the ambassador's suite, they might try for easier targets, like Mrs. Westlake's room, where she mentioned her grandson would be. The corridor to the VIP suites was eerily quiet, emergency lights casting long shadows. I moved carefully, checking each intersection before proceeding. The door to Mrs. I peered through the gap in the door. Lucas Reed was inside, holding what appeared to be a semi-automatic pistol, pointed at a young man I recognized from hotel photos as Tyler Westlake, Mrs. Westlake's grandson. The room had been ransacked, drawers pulled open, a jewelry case emptied onto the bed. "Shut up and open the safe," Lucas demanded. "Your grandmother's access code." Now. Tyler stood his ground, though I could see him trembling. "I don't know it. Only she does." Lucas raised his weapon. "Last chance, rich boy." I had seconds to act. Announcing myself would make me an immediate target. The room layout gave me one advantage. Lucas was standing with his back to a decorative column, focused entirely on Tyler. I slipped through the door silently, using the darkness as cover. 3 steps would get me within striking distance. I took a deep breath and moved. 1 step. Lucas was still focused on Tyler. 2 steps. My hand reached for the heavy crystal vase on the side table. 3 steps. As Lucas began to turn, sensing movement, I swung the vase with all my strength, connecting with his gun arm. Recovering quickly and swinging wildly at my head. I ducked, years of defensive training taking over, and delivered a precise strike to his solar plexus. As he doubled over, I swept his legs, taking him to the ground. He fought back fiercely, landing a solid blow to my ribs that sent pain shooting through my side. I maintained my position, using leverage rather than strength to control him. "Tyler, the phone cord." I called out, keeping Lucas pinned despite his struggling. Tyler scrambled for the cord, bringing it to me. Together, we secured Lucas's hands behind his back. Only then did I reach for my radio. "Hostile secured in Westlake Suite," I reported, breathing heavily. "Need backup," and my transmission was cut short by the sound of breaking glass from the ballroom level, followed by screams and what sounded horribly like gunshots. "Stay here. Keep the door locked," I instructed Tyler, retrieving Lucas's weapon and checking that it was secure. "Radio security if he moves." Back in the corridor, I could hear chaos erupting from multiple directions. My radio crackled with overlapping transmissions. The robbery was escalating. The ballroom team growing desperate as police sirens became audible in the distance. I raced toward the ballroom, passing 2 hotel guests hiding in an alcove. "Stay down, help is coming," I assured them, continuing forward. The ballroom entrance was blocked by panicked guests trying to flee. Through gaps in the crowd, I could see 2 men in server uniforms holding the room at gunpoint while a third collected valuables. Governor Bailey Roberts was visible near the stage, his security detail forming a protective circle around him. A fourth robber emerged from the crowd, dragging Mrs. Westlake as a human shield. "Nobody moves," he shouted. "We're walking out of here. Or the old lady gets it." The governor's security team was armed but couldn't risk a shot with civilians everywhere. Hotel security had established a perimeter but were similarly constrained. I assessed the situation rapidly, noting positions, angles, potential distractions. The emergency exit behind the stage offered a solution. If I could reach the control panel for the fire suppression system, I slipped along the perimeter of the room, using the panicked crowd as cover. The control panel was 20 feet away, partially hidden behind a decorative curtain. The sprinkler system wouldn't stop armed men, but the sudden shock and confusion might create an opportunity. As I neared the panel, one of the robbers spotted me, shouting and raising his weapon. I dove for cover as shots rang out, feeling a searing pain across my upper arm. I'd been grazed, but the adrenaline kept me moving. Rolling to my feet, I lunged for the control panel, smashing the emergency activation button with my fist. Instantly, alarms blared and sprinklers erupted throughout the ballroom. He was heavier, stronger, but I fought with the precision of someone who had trained for exactly this scenario. When he attempted to throw me off, I used his momentum against him, locking his arm in a submission hold until he howled in pain. The governor's security detail had used the distraction to move Roberts to safety. Hotel security converged on the remaining robbers. Blood dripped from my arm onto the marble floor, and pain throbbed through my ribs where Lucas had struck me. But as I looked around at the guests being led to safety, at Mrs. Westlake being attended to by paramedics, at the would-be robbers being handcuffed by police, I felt something beyond the pain: validation. This moment was why I became a security professional. Not for recognition or prestige, but because when crisis struck, I knew exactly what to do. And that knowledge had just saved lives. As officers took custody of my captive, Frank Davidson appeared at my side, concern etched across his weathered face. "Mitchell, you're bleeding. Medics are by the entrance." I nodded, suddenly aware of how exhausted I felt. "The other suspects?" "All in custody. Police caught 2 more trying to escape through the loading dock." He shook his head in disbelief. "If you hadn't identified Reed earlier, if you hadn't implemented those backup protocols, this could have been much worse." As Frank helped me toward the medics, I noticed news crews already setting up near the hotel entrance. In the chaos, they had somehow gained access, cameras rolling as police escorted handcuffed suspects through the lobby. "They're going to want to talk to you," Frank said, following my gaze to the reporters. "The security specialist who stopped an armed robbery and saved the governor." The irony wasn't lost on me. After years of being dismissed as just a security guard, I was about to be very visible indeed. The emergency room was a blur of activity, doctors examining my arm. Half an inch to the left and we'd be having a very different conversation. I was exhausted, but knew sleep wouldn't come even if I tried. My mind was still racing, replaying the events at the hotel, analyzing what I could have noticed sooner, what I might have done differently. In the hospital waiting room, I found Frank Davidson talking with 2 police officers. When he saw me, he excused himself and approached. "How's the arm?" "I'll live," I replied. "What's the latest?" "Police have all 7 suspects in custody. Lucas Reed is talking, trying to cut a deal. They were after the jewelry and cash of the gala attendees. We're talking millions in potential take." "Any connection to the hotel staff?" "None so far." I couldn't help feeling a grim satisfaction at the thought of Mason trying to explain his corner cutting to police investigators. "You should know," Frank continued. "There are news crews camped outside the hospital. The stories everywhere. Hotel security specialist thwarts $1 million heist, saves governor. They want to talk to you." The idea of facing cameras and reporters was almost more daunting than confronting armed robbers. "I'm not much for publicity." "Too late for that," Frank said, showing me his phone. On the screen was a news website with footage from the hotel lobby, security camera video showing me tackling one of the robbers, keeping him pinned despite my bleeding arm. The caption read, Heroic security guard risks life to stop armed robbery. As I stared at the footage, my phone buzzed with a text from Jordan. "You're trending on Twitter." Hotel hero. Before I could process this information, a nurse approached. "Ms. Mitchell? There's a police escort ready to take you home when you're ready. They said it's to avoid the media outside. His office called while you were being treated." The drive home was surreal. Police officers cleared a path through reporters shouting questions, camera flashes illuminating the night. In the back of the police cruiser, I checked my phone for the first time since arriving at the hospital. 37 missed calls. Over 100 text messages. "There's something happening at your hotel on the news." 9:17 p.m. "Dad, call us immediately. We're seeing reports about the Westlake." 10:03 p.m. "Mom, they're showing your picture on the news. Please tell us you're okay." 10:36 p.m. "Dad, the news is saying you stopped an armed robbery. Call us, Sammy." 11:52 p.m. "Dad, we're so worried. Please just let us know you're alive." Then my father's voice came on the line. "Samantha? Are you hurt?" The news said an officer was injured. "Just a few stitches and some bruises," I assured him. "I'm on my way home now." I didn't know how to respond. After years of dismissal, the sudden concern and recognition felt foreign, almost uncomfortable. "Why didn't you tell us?" he asked quietly. "About what you really do." I thought. That I just check bags and watch monitors? I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. The silence that followed spoke volumes. "We're coming to see you tomorrow," Mom interjected. "No arguments. Your father hasn't slept since we saw the news." After promising to call them in the morning, ensuring I reached my door safely. Alone in my apartment, I turned on the television to find my own face staring back at me. The local news was running a special report on the Westlake Grand incident, complete with security footage, witness interviews, and experts discussing the quick-thinking security specialist whose actions prevented tragedy. Governor Bailey Roberts appeared on screen, looking composed despite the evening's events. I want to personally thank Samantha Mitchell, whose extraordinary courage and professionalism undoubtedly saved lives tonight. MS. Mitchell exemplifies the unsung heroes who work tirelessly to keep us all safe. The scene cut to Mrs. Westlake outside the hospital, her grandson Tyler beside her. Despite the late hour, she was impeccably dressed, her voice steady as she addressed reporters. Ms. Mitchell has been an invaluable member of the Westlake Grand Security team for 6 years. Tonight, I am pleased to announce her promotion to Chief of Security Operations, effective immediately. I sank onto my couch in shock. Chief of Security Operations? Confirming the promotion and requesting a meeting once you've had adequate time to recover. Attached was a press release already prepared for distribution, highlighting my background, training, and accomplishments at the hotel. Social media notifications continued to flood in, former colleagues congratulating me, security professionals from other hotels expressing admiration. Who knew little Sammy would grow up to save the governor? Family pride hotel hero. The same cousin whose wedding guests had heard my father introduce me as just a security guard barely 48 hours ago. As dawn broke, I remained on my couch, watching the coverage cycle through the same footage, the same interviews, the same praise for the security guard who had stopped an armed robbery. The narrative was being shaped in real time, a heroic tale of quick thinking and bravery. But what struck me most was how many people were now seeing what I had always known. That security wasn't just a job. It was a profession that required expertise, training, and dedication. That just a security guard was a title to be respected, not dismissed. My phone rang again, a number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. "Ms. Mitchell? This is Andrea Lopez from National Security Professionals magazine. We'd like to feature you in our next issue. Would you be available for an interview later this week?" As I scheduled the interview, I couldn't help but wonder if my father would read it. 3 days after the incident at the Westlake Grand, I was finally released from the whirlwind of police interviews, media requests, and medical follow-ups. My apartment had become a fortress of privacy, with hotel security, my colleagues, volunteering to keep reporters at bay. "The entire security industry is talking about you," they told me that morning. Frank's gotten calls from hotels in New York, Los Angeles, even London, all wanting to know about our training protocols. I was scrolling through yet another news article about the Westlake hero when my phone rang. It was Frank. "Mitchell, you have visitors in the lobby. Your family's here." I hesitated. Despite the multiple calls and texts exchanged since the incident, I hadn't actually seen my parents or brother. Part of me had been avoiding it, unsure how to navigate this new reality where my profession was suddenly worthy of their attention. "Send them up," I finally said, quickly tidying the living room and tucking away the pain medication that would betray how much my injuries still bothered me. The knock came minutes later. I opened the door to find not just my parents and Ryan, but also Grandma Grace, her eyes twinkling with unmistakable pride. "Samantha," Mom rushed forward. "She stopped armed robbers. She can manage a few missed meals." She took my face in her weathered hands. "I knew you had your grandfather's spirit." Dad stood awkwardly by the door, looking smaller somehow than I remembered from the wedding. Ryan hovered beside him, uncharacteristically quiet. "Come in," I said, stepping back. "It's not much, but it's lovely." Mom interrupted, though her eyes betrayed her assessment of my modest apartment. We settled in the living room, the conversation starting and stopping in uncomfortable fits. Mom filled the silence by fussing over my bandaged arm and insisting I was too pale. Ryan asked technical questions about the security systems at the hotel, genuinely interested in a way he'd never been before. Dad remained mostly silent, his eyes occasionally meeting mine before darting away. After declining Mom's third offer to come stay at their house until you're fully recovered, I addressed the elephant in the room. "This is weird for everyone, isn't it?" 3 days ago, I was the family disappointment with the embarrassing job. Now you're all sitting in my living room like I've just won an Olympic medal. The bluntness of my statement hung in the air. Mom looked stricken, Ryan studied his shoes, and Grandma Grace nodded approvingly. "Finally," she said. I was wondering how long we'd pretend. Dad cleared his throat. "Samantha, he stopped. And all I could think was that I never even asked what you actually do at that hotel." The raw honesty in his voice caught me off guard. This was not the confident, dismissive father from the wedding. 6 years, I said quietly. 6 years I've tried to tell you about my training, my certifications, my promotions. 6 years of being introduced as just a security guard at every family gathering. "I know," he acknowledged, the admission clearly painful. I didn't understand. The words came out sharper than intended. "Yes," he admitted. "All of that. And courage. The kind of courage I'm not sure I would have had in your position." He met my eyes directly for the first time. "I was wrong, Samantha. And I'm sorry." The apology hung between us, sincere but insufficient to erase years of dismissal. Still, it was a beginning. "I brought something," he continued, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a folded newspaper, the business section of the city's premier publication. On the front page was an article titled "Security Specialist Saves Governor: The Expertise Behind the Heroism." They interviewed security professionals, consultants for corporations and government agencies, Dad explained. They all said the same thing, that what you did wasn't just bravery, but the result of extensive training and expertise. His voice cracked slightly. One of them was a classmate of mine from business school. He said he's been trying to recruit someone with your qualifications for years. I took the newspaper, skimming the article that detailed the specialized training required for high-level security positions, the psychological preparation, the tactical decision-making under pressure. The conversation that followed wasn't easy. Years of hurt and misunderstanding couldn't be resolved in a single afternoon. But for the first time, they listened, really listened, as I explained my career path, the challenges I'd overcome, the expertise I'd developed. Ryan, to my surprise, asked the most insightful questions. "So this promotion to Chief of Operations, that's a big deal, right? What does it mean for your career trajectory?" Before I could answer, there was another knock at the door. Jordan stood there with Frank Davidson and, to my shock, Mrs. Westlake herself. "Sorry to interrupt," Jordan said, looking curiously at my family gathered in the living room. "Mrs. Westlake insisted on delivering this personally. Mrs. Westlake entered with the dignified air of someone accustomed to commanding attention. At 82, she remained a formidable presence. She held out a leather portfolio. The terms we discussed, with a few additions I think you'll find agreeable. My family watched in stunned silence as Mrs. Eleanor Westlake, whose name adorned one of the city's most prestigious establishments, handed me a contract that would elevate me to an executive position. "We'll need you back as soon as you're medically cleared," she continued. "The security landscape has changed after this incident." Noticing my family for the first time, "You must be very proud," she said to my parents. "Your daughter's expertise is extraordinary. We consider ourselves fortunate that she chose the Westlake Grand for her career." After they left, the apartment fell silent again. Dad stared at the leather portfolio in my hands. A reputation, a level of trust with the staff and guests. I'm not ready to walk away from that. He seemed surprised. "Even with all the offers coming in?" "Your mother mentioned calls from some major security firms." "Those offers were always there," I said quietly. "The difference is now everyone else can see what I've always known about my capabilities." The evening concluded with tentative plans for a family dinner the following weekend. "Your career isn't just legitimate, Samantha. It's vital. It matters in ways I never appreciated." 2 weeks later, I returned to the Westlake Grand for my first day as Chief of Security Operations. The lobby staff applauded as I walked in, an unexpected and somewhat embarrassing welcome. Frank had arranged a small ceremony in the staff area, where I was presented with a new office and team, whose corner cutting had contributed to the security breach, had been reassigned to a Westlake property in a much less prestigious location. The most significant change, however, came 3 months later at my cousin Jared's graduation party. As relatives mingled in my aunt's backyard, I overheard my father talking to a group of family friends. "Have you met my daughter Samantha?" he was saying, his voice carrying across the patio. "She's the head of security operations at the Westlake Grand. Completely revolutionized their protocols after that incident last spring." The pride in his voice was unmistakable. Not pride in what had happened to me, the media attention. The interview requests had slowed, and life had largely returned to normal. But something fundamental had shifted, not just in how others saw me, but in how I carried myself. I no longer felt the need to justify my career choices or explain my expertise. I had always known who I was and what I was capable of. Now, finally, so did everyone else. So if you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or introduced as just anything, remember that your value isn't determined by others' perception. It's built through your dedication, your expertise, and your unwavering belief in yourself. Sometimes it takes a dramatic moment for others to see it, but that doesn't mean it wasn't always there. I'd love to hear your stories about being underestimated and proving your worth. Have you ever had a moment where others finally recognized your value? Drop a comment below. Like this video if it resonated with you, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, you're never just anything. You're exactly who you're meant to be.